afternoon, everybody. The lights on my cameras didn't change color, so I didn't think we went live. But nonetheless, we are back again to do more forging around and finding out. So tonight, we're going to be making something similar to this, maybe. At least that's the attempt of making one of these doodads. This is part of a larger project that we're doing in class up at Custom Blacksmithing up in Atlanta, Indiana. And we had a couple that the sizes were a little bit off, and then we had one that was just completely too small. So we worked Thursday night to remake it, and then towards the end of the night, we burned off one of the ears. So to try and catch us up a little bit, I figured we'd just work on it during the stream tonight. So we're gonna make something similar to this, or at least get started. Excuse me. Oh, smoke is bothering me. So yeah, I grabbed this piece of metal before I left the shop. It is entirely too long, which is fine, because we can always cut more off when we get there, because there's going to be a lot of reshaping and whatnot, because the piece we're doing is huge. And this is just one of the many, many, many parts of that project. And at the moment, it's too heavy to just sit in there, so I'm going to have to hold it the whole time. But regardless, welcome back. Hope you had an awesome weekend. We had a pretty nice, uneventful weekend. Nice and easy. So, yeah. This weekend it's supposed to be raining. I was hoping to reopen the chicken coop, or at least get it started. But if it's going to rain all weekend, I don't want to be out here in the rain doing that stuff. We don't have a Levi tonight because he's off gallivanting in Florida again. So just me and Miss Brittany running the show tonight. So yeah, what we're going to do here to start this, as soon as it's hot, we're going to scarf down in the very end of it to get it prepped for a weld. Do I have the pause? Yeah, I should be. Get it prepped for a weld, and then we will fold it over at about 10 inches, weld it, and in the middle of the bend we'll cut that and pull it apart slightly, taper it to some points, and then put some scrolls in it, and we'll see how that works out. We'll let that get a little bit hotter. Excuse me. It's a little chilly, but we got the door open because it's just smoke's bothering me today, so I don't know what the deal is. I may or may not light up a cigar. I brought one. I don't know if I will or not. But this smoke, what little is coming out, is bothering me. I don't want to put smoke right in the face. We did not add the shirts to the Etsy shop because it's been a busy week. We could have done it over the weekend, but we got distracted with other stuff. So by next Monday, we'll have the shirts up on the shop, and we'll do the coupon code next Monday. Anything you'd like to add, Miss Brittany?
I've also been thinking about adding like sweatshirts to the shop too, with the same
we could do that.
phrase logo on it. But yeah, it was a somewhat lazy weekend, somewhat productive weekend, and just not productive with the cricket.
Yeah. I couldn't even get a bookmark made over the weekend.
Okay.
So there's a series of comic books that I've wanted to read for a very long time, and I just haven't, because I'm 40, I don't need to be reading comic books. But I finally decided, enough is enough, I'm going to read it. I'm being told to pause.
Your computer screen just went black. We're still.
Is it plugged in for power?
Yeah. We're still live. Like the keys are lit up. Just kidding. They are not anymore. otherwise can't see anything.
So the laptop's just required to kick off the screen. We may be having technical difficulties, so bear with us just a second here. Trying to see if we can get this figured out. All right, it says that we are currently live. It's a little behind.
I say if you want to hold on to, that's always a little behind.
Yeah, it's a little behind.
But do you want to hold on to your phone so you can keep an eye? Because I can't keep an eye on comments or anything.
Yeah, we can do that. Bear with us just a moment, friends. Can I have that little doodad that's in that bag? Little black thing.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, guys. Take just another second here. Well, that's awfully tall.
I say, do you want to use this one? That way you can get it set up and I can mess with that.
Maybe. If this takes me 2 seconds, then cool. If it takes me longer, then we'll trade. You know what? Actually, yeah, let's trade if you don't mind, because I want my phone to be that way. Good deal. I guess I could have used that actual tripod over there. I'm sorry.
Never a dull moment.
Never a dull moment. Keeping things interesting.
See, everybody, this is why you can't go to Florida.
Right?
I don't know how to fix computers. And they just decide to stop computering.
We will see. We'll see how long my phone lasts, because it's mostly dead. But nonetheless, we're going to get this metal hot, and we're going to start hitting on it eventually. This is a blacksmithing channel after all, so we probably should do some blacksmithing once in a while. If you would. When you get your stuff squared away, unplug that laptop from the power, and hold the power button down for like 30 seconds. Let go of the power button, plug it in, try to power it up again. If you would be so kind. Okay, we got somebody watching. Hey, person watching, welcome to the show. If you would, throw something in the chat to make sure I can actually see it, because we have to change things up a little bit. I really appreciate you. And if it's Ian watching on your TV and you can't interact with me, that's fine too. Live chat. Remember to guard your privacy. I don't know how this works. All messages. Let's do that. Oh, and whoever was watching ran away. Not quality enough for them, I guess. Let's hit some metal just for funsies here. So I didn't have a lot of heat. So I just squared it up a little bit just so I can get some hammering in here. We've been live for nearly 15 minutes and haven't done anything but jibber jabber. So yeah, we'll hit some metal. Got our viewer back. Welcome back, Mr. or Mrs. Viewer.
And I'm good in the chat.
You're good in chat?
Yep. Hey.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
Is the power block not on?
It wasn't on. Yes, it is now. What would also throw me off is like the light on. Never mind.
Do you want to take that from me and put my phone back on the charger? I gotta get this fan controller replaced. It's so touchy. Like, we're just running a little bit cool, so I just cranked it up just a tad. But I know here in a minute, if I don't watch it, it's gonna be up to welding temperature and then like burn my piece off. So I gotta get that replaced. I should probably swing by an old hardware store and get a doodad for it. Excuse me. All right, we're gonna scarf that down a little bit. So basically what I'm doing is taking the material down to about half the material, like half the width. That way, when it's a little bit smaller, a little bit wider, I'll probably put it over the horn or in the crevice there and give it just a little bit of a dip. So when I fold it over, it'll grab the parent stock nice and easy. And then we'll get it welded up. Yeah, we'll do one more heat on that. And again, welcome to the blacksmithing channel. If that was too loud for you, you didn't know what you were getting into. You should have known though. Blacksmithing, it's loud. So I'm sorry about your ears if you had headphones on. But you should know what you're getting into when you go to the blacksmithing channel. We'll just take that down just a little bit more and then we'll measure out our distances and get things going. I like to use my anvil as a measuring device. I'll pull out, well, not necessarily a measuring device, but I like to pull out my tape measure or whatever and measure out distances and mark it so that I don't have to keep pulling the measuring device out and looking at it. I just have all my things set for me. So I'll set a distance here that's 10 inches, and then I'll set one that's like about 13 and a half, so I know where to hit my mark. My horn is too light for that noise. All right, we'll just go with it. We'll set that aside for right now. We have my measuring stick here. Clean off my anvil a little bit. Still got wax on there from a couple weeks ago, so everything sticks. All right. So the measurement first is 10 inches. So we're gonna go 10 inches. Grab my soapstone here. There we go. That's 10 inches. So now what I'll do is I will get the back, well, about 10 inches down. I'll get that hot and bend it over to bring it together. Now a handy little trick is like, well, once I know where 10 inches is, and I put that in the fire, how do I know that's 10 inches? Well, we're going to do a little trick here. If I have room. I don't have room. That's awesome. So, what I would normally do, get the handle real good now. So, you measure down about 10 inches and then you fold it down, you smack it inside of the anvil and score the metal so you can find it when it's hot. But I don't have enough room between the forge and my anvil to do that. So we're just going to do it this way. I'm going to set that at 10. That's 10 inches there. Put that aside. Come over to a sharp edge on the anvil. And we'll put a little divot in there. I don't know if you can see that or not, but just a little divot. Oh, I mismeasured that like crazy. I'm botched that. You want to go by the end of the scarf, not the end of the metal. So we'll put another little dimple in there. 1 second, Miss Brittany, about to make loud noises. Yes, you were saying?
So for the people at home and also for me, you said you want to measure it by the end of the scarf. What is the scarf?
Oh, there we go. You want to jump to the camera too?
I'm already there.
All right, so this piece right here is the scarf that I created. Scarf right here is the piece that we just flattened and took it down to about half the material.
Got it.
So the scarf ends at about right there. So that's about where I measured it. And I brought it down and I put a little score in the metal right there. So I know where to find it in the fire. And then when I come out, I'll know where to bend it at.
Cool.
Excellent question. And I just adjusted the fire just a tiny little bit, and it's all ready for welding already in there. So I'm going to be very careful. I'm going to bring that down just a little bit, but I will gas it back up when we get to the welding part. That temperature controller is so temperamental. Waka waka.
All the jokes.
Crazy story. This is a metal folding tape measure type deal. Super handy. I have a bunch of them that aren't metal, so I don't use them in blacksmithing. But this one's metal, and I've been meaning to pick one up for a while. And then one day I was reaching in the seat back pocket of my truck looking for something, and I felt something weird. And I pulled this out, and this was in the pocket in my truck. I've never owned a metal one before, and I have no idea how it got there.
Well, you just got another one from your dad, like not this most recent weekend, but the week before.
What did I do with that?
Yeah.
Because he did give me a metal one, didn't he?
Because you thought it was wood at first. And you were like, I can't use this. And then he
Where
was
did
like,
I put that? I completely forgot about that.
You're welcome.
Probably in the truck. Maybe that's how I got this one. Did someone give this to me and I put it in the truck and forgot about it?
Possibly.
I don't know. I can't be expected to remember anything. Now I want to go out to the truck and like, did I just throw it in the back truck? Did I give it to you?
You didn't give it
I
to me.
didn't stick it in my bed.
I wonder if you put it in the bag with the other things that your dad gave you.
What other things did he give me? Oh yeah.
Possibly. But I thought he gave that to you. Like,
Yeah, I really don't know where that is.
Best Buy. So maybe not.
Gotta sit way above the fire. We're never gonna get hot. Where's my mark? There's my mark. Let's try it that way. Yeah, I don't remember where I put that. I forgot he gave me a metal one. That one might be handy. Heck, I'll bring that one out here and that can just be a shop tape measure so I own.
So you
Right.
have one out here.
So I always have one when I'm here.
Not a bad idea.
And so I don't have to make my toolbox heavier too, because it's starting to. When I pick it up, it goes egg shaped because it's so heavy.
I mean, to be fair, I've tried to take my hammer out of your work bucket a number of times, and you just keep putting it back in there.
Because I don't want it sitting out here. If someone were to break in the middle of the night and abscond with anything they can carry,
I would
I
find
don't-
them, and I would.
yeah, I don't want your hammer to end up in a pawn shop somewhere. So yeah, I don't want that sitting out here.
That's fair. Thank you for this. Yeah, we're going. I've had that hammer for it'll be what, a year, and
It was like midsummer when you made it.
yeah, I was gonna say like July or August.
Yeah. So yeah, like I was saying before the live stream went out, well, we can continue with what you were talking
No,
about.
go ahead.
Is can't even get a bookmark. I'm started reading this comic book, Secret Wars. It's where Spider-Man gets his black suit for the very first time. But I'm using a scrap of paper for a bookmark, and I asked somebody who has a whole Etsy shop centered around bookmarks, couldn't even get a bookmark.
Okay, in my defense, because so for which I'm sure anybody that's watching doesn't necessarily have a Cricut or understand how the whole the thing works, but it comes with the software, and the software has different designs for like say Spider-Man, for example, or like Disney stuff, or like it's got a bunch of stuff, and then you can use those to create an original design kind of deal. And the ones that he went through like the day after I got that set up, he went through and bookmarked some of the designs that he likes, both of which Spider-Man. And so I looked at the thing the other day, like Thursday when you were at class, I looked at them and I was like, okay, I can make Jesse his bookmark. Yodel yodel. And then I looked like closer at it, and the way that it works is you input the design, and then Cricut will go in and separate the design by the colors of it. So like his shirt, for example, the hammer and anvil and the words and the logo on the back, since that's all one color, it prints out on it separates that automatically and prints all of those layers, and then I have to go in.
It's not actually printing anything.
I'm sorry. And then cuts those layers, and then for like the orange around the hammer in the anvil and the flames, I have to put in a different piece of vinyl, have it cut that, etc. I don't have all of the right vinyl to create what we want right now. Like the two Spider-Mans that you bookmarked, I don't have the vinyl to do that right now.
The one you just have to cut it out in black. Do you not have any black?
But there's shading, so it wouldn't look the same as what you say. There's a dark black and then
We'll
there's
have to
like
revisit
a
the
gray.
things I picked out.
I looked and I was like, okay, I have plenty of black because we got black specifically. So and that's a different kind of vinyl anyway. But I have black vinyl, but I don't have like a dark gray vinyl that could be like the shadows or the highlights. In this case, the highlights or whatever. So to make it look, two-dimensional. So this is not my fault. Yeah. For all I know, tomorrow he's gonna be like, let's go to Michael's and get you the vinyl that you made. Then it'll be my fault.
But I don't like going to Michael's.
Yeah, well.
I could have swore one of those Spider-Mans, it was just black and white, no shading involved. No shady Spidey.
There are a couple of like gray.
I want to know why this is not getting hot even a little bit. But again, I don't want to gas it up because then it'll go wild. Getting the back down, going crazy. Anybody in the old comments throwing stuff at us?
Nope, nobody yet.
No, well, all right then.
A typical night you and me, back and forth to each other.
Yeah, just jibber jabber, just all the time.
All the time.
I heard somebody talking. It was just some geese.
Yeah.
Look at that. That's been sitting in there for a while. And it's barely red. Also, I pushed that in there way too far. We'll just move the fire to the middle. We'll see how that works. I gotta make my coal shovel too. That almost became the project for the night. Finished the coal shovel I started a year and a half ago. But then this project presented itself because I want to get it caught up so we don't have so much work to do on Thursday. When I put Pepsi in my cup, I should have grabbed an extra Pepsi.
I have a Diet Coke.
Gross.
I like my Diet Cokes.
And you're allowed to. I do not like Diet Cokes. All I taste is that artificial sweetener, and artificial sweetener tastes like asphalt to me. So I don't want to drink it. Maybe I want a bigger forge. Maybe I want to do like a big square forge right here.
I like the one that Rob has.
Kind of like the one that Rob has, yes. He and Paul like to make forges. I wonder how much Paul would charge me to make me a forge. Probably cost me about 400 bucks, 450 bucks or so.
The only thing that I would be concerned with a forge like the one that Rob has is ventilation in the small space. It works for him because he's in a big barn.
Yeah, well, I would do like a hood over the top of it, kind of like a kitchen hood.
Honestly, kitchen hood might be a good way to handle it. So then you just cut a hole in the.
All right, so I just found the cut I put in earlier so I can know when to start bending. Then once I get started bending where I want it to go, I can just come down here and give it the old crank in the hardy hole, so I don't have to put a bunch of hammer marks in it. Then something that also comes in handy here is no hammer required. Just bounce it on down that way. Now since I'm going to be prepping this for weld, I'm assuming we're over here. You'll notice that there's a gap between the scarf and the main stock. You don't want that. That's where scale will form, and you can't weld scale. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this part hot now, and then kind of smush it together a little bit. I wish I had my leg vise out here that was functional, because it's also very handy. The way I've been doing it at the shop is I'll get it real hot at the bend, and then I'll clamp this part in the leg vise and let it come down to room temperature, squeeze tightly, so it just learns to stay, I guess. Instead of, again, hammering on it a whole bunch. Use the tools you have available.
But what I was saying before,
Yeah, sorry.
doing like just a straight up kitchen hood above it would be a bad idea because there's already going to be like a built-in fan in that. Cut a hole in the ceiling, have it come right off the ceiling.
That's right. Have a nice square thing and put like a high backstop on it so I don't push coal off into the back. Yeah, I might have to do that. I might have to look into, because this is a great forge. It's very nice, but it has its limits. It might be cool just to throw that on the trailer if I go to a blacksmithing thing, or go to a hammer and just throw that on the trailer and take it with.
Yeah. I remember how the last time it was on the trailer went.
Wasn't strapped down.
Oh, well, I don't feel so bad for you then.
She's referring to the fact that when I finally got the shop and we were done doing things in the front yard, I just piled like the anvil, the hot rack, the forge, and a whole bunch of other stuff onto my trailer. And then I just figured I would drive real slow through the yard and then unload it. And as I was pulling the truck away in the front yard, things got a little bit bouncy and I came to a stop, and the forge took a nosedive off the side of the forge and bent it up and broke a piece. So that's what she's referencing. If I were to take it to a hammering or to a thing, I would obviously strap it down. I just didn't think I need to strap it down to move it 100 feet. But I learned that you do. You need to strap stuff down, even if you're moving it 100 feet. One of these vices, whatever this thing is, wrench, the teeth are messed up on, I think, that one, so it doesn't like to open and close very easily. This one seems to be better. So we'll let that just sit for a second. See how that works out for us. And while we wait on that, I think why not? Let's fire up a cigar.
Stogie time.
Oliva G. One of my personal favorites.
Also for kids, for anybody who's smoking cigars. Just use whatever piece of metal you just have in the fire to light.
That's one of the nice things about being a cigar smoker and a blacksmith is you're never too far away from the light for your cigar.
That explains a lot about the people that I've met through you at Blacksmith. So I'm pretty sure of the people that I've met, all but maybe one smoke cigars.
Yeah, it's pretty common. There's a lot of crossover there. There's been times where we'll be at the shop and have 3 or 4 forges going, but there's a haze of smoke hanging low, and it's tobacco and not coal. I made the joke that we're going to turn into a blacksmithing cigar club anytime now because there's been times where there's been 6 or 8 of us all standing around smoking cigars in the shop. I'm going to start getting prepped for the weld here. Got some good old fancy flux. How's the flux? Some of you might recognize the bottle, but I'm not going to reference the name of who makes this flux and why it's special because I reached out to them via email and said, hey, I'm getting ready to do a video where I'm going to do a lot of welding because, as you know, I got lots of chain to make. So I'm like, I'm going to be doing a lot of welding. Do you maybe want to sponsor the video and send me a bottle or 2 of your fantastic product? And straight go. Not a no thank you, take a hike. Not so much as have an apple, as the woman says from White Christmas. Nothing. So no more free plugs for them.
Okay.
If I had tape out here, I'd wrap tape around it to cover the label. Just so there's no accidental plugs. So, in preparation, I just want to set my cigar down across mine. I'll use my fancy brimstone cigar holder, available at brimstoneforge.us. So the fire is not quite ready to weld, so I'm going to gas it up just a little. It's almost there, but let's add a little bit more heat. Why not? Neighbor's dog is barking. I don't think he's a fan of adding a little bit more heat, but he's a dog, and he doesn't know that you need the heat to weld.
Yeah.
I mean, dogs are my favorite people, but I don't think that dog knows anything about forge welding. Dogs are some of my favorite people, not my only favorite people. So what we're gonna do, do I have my brush? I do have my brush. What we're gonna do is we're gonna get this good and hot. Just good and hot, not welding hot, good and hot. And when it's good and hot, we will come out and we will brush the hell out of it and get it all ready. And then we will put some of this white powdery substance, borax, over the top of it where all the joints are going to be. And then back into the fire we'll dive. And we've talked about a lot about getting a third camera to set it up high to focus on the fire so y'all can see what's going on in the forge. And all my cameras are kind of permanently affixed. I can't move them. Can you see the fire from camera 2?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay, so Brittany, you're gonna have to help direct me a little bit. Can you see like the flames coming out the top?
Yes.
Cool, we're gonna come back to that in a little bit. We got a little pile of coal and then it turns white hot down in there. I don't think you can see that.
Can you readjust? Yeah.
Want me to move this?
Yep.
Let's see. So can you see where the fire is white hot? Okay, beautiful. So folks, where the fire is white hot, that's your welding temperature. That's the good stuff, right? So what you'll do is, and I usually talk about this real fast while it's happening, so we're gonna take a moment to talk about it now. When this metal is prepped for weld, I will set it down on those white hot coals and I will watch the metal very carefully because at these high temperatures, it's very easy to turn your metal into a sparkler and then it's ruined forever. What are you gonna do? You all saw that in my fire and brimstone video where I splattered metal and spin my hammer. Everyone still makes fun of me for it, but that's okay. So nonetheless, we're gonna get that metal up to that white hot heat. You gotta watch it real carefully. Now when I mentioned the flame that's hanging out over the top, that flame will start to turn green a little bit. That's when you know you're getting really close. And if you dial in and look at your piece, you will start to see little tiny rivers and little tiny blisters start to form. And when that happens, and the color of the white behind it, that's when you're ready to weld. If you do it early, it won't stick. If you do it too late, it won't stick because it's sparkling and falling apart. So that fire is about perfect for welding. Then when I teach class, after I explain something like that, I will often say, does that make sense? I can ask that, but nobody can answer me. Does that make sense? Hey, if you're watching, throw it in the comments. Did what I said make sense?
I was gonna say, if you want to unhook that from the fan, I can carry that camera over.
No, that's quite all right. That's way too much work.
It's not that much work.
No, we're just gonna knock this stuff out. When I do get to finishing the chain and doing all that welds, I'm gonna do a video where I fully explain the whole welding thing, so check back for that. I don't know why I had a weird accent there, but check back for that. So what I'm doing here is just getting that fire good and hot and centered on where we made that scarf, where the weld is going to happen. This might get really awkward with how small my forge is and how long this metal is, but we will try to get this worked out. So yeah, we're gonna get it real good and hot, clean it up, flux it, and throw it back in there.
And for someone that has never welded or watched one of your videos where you've welded anything, why do you want to clean it up?
Well, when you're working with hot metal, when it touches the air, it forms scale, which is like flaky metal bits. And that will prevent you from welding because you can't weld scale. It breaks apart and crumbles. It crumbles and falls apart. So if you weld to that, what's your weld sticking to? It's sticking to garbage. So you get it hot, so it's more malleable, so you can knock off all the scale. And then you put borax on where you're going to be doing the weld. The borax prevents oxidization, which creates the scale. So the borax just prevents scale from happening, so you have a better chance of getting your weld to stick. This particular brand of borax, they add iron shavings to it. So the iron shavings kind of act like a glue, and then the borax prevents scaling. So it kind of acts like, it's really handy. And it'll allow you to get like a tack weld at a much lower temperature. So once you get it tacked, then you can go through and get your actual weld. It's very handy. At class, we make people learn how to forge weld the hard way with just straight 4-ax. And then once they learn that, then we say, hey, oh, by the way, there's this product that makes it way easier. So we make people learn it the hard way first. So that's about hot enough. I'm not super happy with that, but we'll clean it up while we get it out. We're gonna get that a little bit hotter because we only got the scarf hot. So let's get that down. Ooh. I need a pair of tongs.
Getting a little toasty in there.
Yeah, all the coal's starting to clump together, so when I push that in there, I try to push everything apart. So yeah, we'll let that warm up a little bit. Anybody in the comment section?
No, sir.
Quiet night tonight. What time is it?
Almost 7.
Almost 7. Well, we're in that first hour. Usually people don't start showing up till about 7.
Yeah, we did have somebody in here for a second. There were no comments or anything. So.
Yeah. How are you? Now I'm going to go a little bit hotter. A little bit hotter. This is going to be a challenge with this lip there. That's going to be a challenge to get that up to volume 10. But I believe we'll be able to do it. All right. I think that's good enough to clean up and flux. Just try and get all that scale out of there and get it a little bit cleaned up. All right. No, that's going to be a challenge, I think. Get that all up here. And since we're so far above the fire, to that lip, I think I will give a little bit more air, which means we're just going to have to be way more careful about our sticking our weld. So yeah, we just gotta wait on this to get up to temperature. We're nowhere near the correct temperature. The fire's got a good heat to it, but the metal's not there yet. So yeah, we'll just have to take our time, let it come up. As it starts to get really hot, I'll flip it over so we can get both sides to come up at the same time. Because you want all sides of the weld to be the same temperature so the weld will stick. We will probably do about 3 or 4 rounds of welding and clean up to make it look nice. So this is the part where we just gotta be patient for a moment. Fire's good and hot. The metal is, I'd say, like 80% there on the temperature. Just taking a minute to climb up there. All right, we're getting pretty close. I don't know what camera you're on. What camera are you on?
1.
Jump to 2 if you would.
Yep.
You can start to see, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but very low above the coal, you can start to see that it's turning green a little bit. So I'm going to turn it over because that's how we know we're getting close. And sure enough, it's blistering and bubbling up on the part that was down. So now we're going to bring the other side up to that same temperature.
Yeah, it's not picking up green on the camera, but
All right, I'm starting to see sparks, so we're just going to go for it. If you see sparks, you've gone too long. So now we're just going to melt that up a little bit. There, so I went a little bit longer than I normally do. Usually you only want to do about 3 or 4 hits. Oh. 3 or 4 hits before it gets too cold to weld. But that felt good to me. Like, it was all very liquidy. I'm pretty sure that's at least got a basic weld going. So now we're going to do a couple more heats where we'll blend that weld a little bit, make it look nice, and make sure that it's good and solid. Yeah, the bottom part was ready, so we're gonna let the other side catch up. All right, let's do a little bit of work here. Feels welded. It looks welded. It may be welded. But here in a second, when I cut it and open it up a little bit, we'll see how good that weld was. If you tuned in a couple of weeks ago, I was doing a similar project where you fold over, weld it, cut it, fold it over, weld it, cut it, and then you end up with 4 fingers, and then you can do all sorts of fancy stuff with it. And all my welds blew apart. That's not good yet. So let's hope this weld sticks.
well, and can you try to describe what you mean by being able to feel it?
No, that's an experience thing. Is you get used to hitting metal and it has a certain feel to it, a certain kind of rebound. And when you get that weld to stick, it feels squishy. Like it's like smacking a pillow with a wet sock. Like it just, like I don't know, it's weird. You'll hear it if you start to pay attention. It'll be like a real soft thud instead of like that crisp bang that we're used to hearing.
Yeah, I mean, I've forge welded a few times now, and I don't think I could point out when it felt welded.
Yeah, that's an experience thing. It just, after you've welded 10 things or so, you'll hear it like, oh, got it. Or your hammer will sit for just a half a second, you're like, oh, felt that one. Like it just takes experience to figure out. So what I was doing there was just some blending. I'm pretty certain that's welded. So I was just doing some blending to make some of those lines go away to make it look nice. I think that looks pretty good. We got a little extra weld in there because it got too hot and it stuck. But the part that's supposed to be welded is welded, and those other parts we can fix. That is no problem whatsoever.
Well, and a good way to tell that it's welded once you have it out of the fire and you're done hitting it, like you're cleaning it up like you are now, is that, oh, that metal should be the same color.
Precisely. You'll notice that it all got black and all red together with no big dark spots. That would indicate that it didn't weld. I'm pretty sure that welded. Another thing I like to do, and this will be the time it proves it when I'm, filming it. But I like to bang it and see if it comes apart. And it didn't. I just like to poke the bear just to make sure that it welded properly. So now, we'll let that sit for a second. I'm going to bring my fire way down because we don't need to be that hot for the rest of what we're doing. Gonna let that fire come way down. And next what we'll do is we will cut that loop. And since it's at 10 inches where we folded it over, we actually need each leg to be about 13.5 inches. So I gotta cut it, taper it, and draw it out to about 13.5.
Rob asks, are you rubbing it with your hammer?
Am I rubbing it with my hammer? No, I've not rubbed it with my hammer. Are you supposed to rub a weld with your hammer?
That's what she said.
Yeah. Here you go, Rob. Just for you. There you go, Rob. That was just for you.
The eye contact sells it.
I figured it would. Alright. Now I'm going to sit and go ahead and call it. If I cut this and that weld blows apart, short stream tonight. Done. Have a good night, guys. So we'll just have to see how that plays out. I don't even remember where I put my hot shot. I had it out earlier. It looks like this. Have you seen it?
What? Third time's a charm?
Yeah, 3 times a charm. I'm going to walk off camera with this and that. You want to jump in the camera and say how you welcome. That's a good frame shot. All right. So we're going to try and cut this and see how that goes.
Yeah.
Probably easy if we cut it this way. You know what I might do? I might try to conjure up some bigger metal. And I might do a stream where I replace my hot cut. Because this one is very worse for wear.
Yeah, you've been saying that you were gonna fix that one up for quite some time.
The problem with it is I'm constantly fixing it. I take it to the grinding wheel and clean it up, and it's good for a couple uses. Then I take it to the grinding wheel, and it's good for a couple uses. Today I didn't have time to take it to the grinding wheel, so I just got it hot and hammered on it a little bit to make it more pointy. That's getting warm. I also need to make like a forge mop. That would be handy. See, the weather needs to hurry up and get nice, so I can come out here on a weekend or a day after work, fire up the shop, and then make all the things I need to have around here.
On top of all of the other things that we're doing.
Yeah, on top of getting the front yard looking nice. On top of getting the chicken coop reopened, on top of getting a garden cut out of the ground, and taking down all those saplings and bushes up in the front yard. Still better than apartment living. I'd rather have these problems than the problems of living in a shitty apartment with stupid neighbors.
I've got less than a month and I don't have to worry about that anymore.
If I had this neighbor, if I got a chance to talk to him again, I'd probably spit in his eye and thank him, and then spit in his eye again. Oh, that was super hot. But so is this, so let's cut some metal real quick. Alright, it cut apart and did not blow apart the weld yet. That other side hot. You got something comical you'd like to add, Miss Brittany?
Well, so Ian said more pointy. Rob said, hey, you know why it's called a hot cut? Cut hot material with it.
That's what I just did. That was pretty hot when I cut that.
Well, yeah, I'm working my way down the list, and he said that'll cut. And Ian says, still have stupid neighbors though. Laugh out loud. Nah, I like our neighbors.
I like our neighbors too.
Don't like it so much when they,
And cover the whole street with smoke.
My boyfriend runs off barefoot and half naked to go make sure they're okay.
I was raised in the country, and that's what we do in the country.
No. I appreciate it. It was not a fun 5 to 10 minutes for me when I couldn't find you and
It was fine for
see
me.
anything. Well, yeah, you were fine because you were over there talking to Ian.
So what had happened was, Brittany and I were sitting on the couch playing video games. It was like a Saturday afternoon, wasn't it? It was.
So. Yeah,
like,
I think it was. Yeah.
It was like 4 or 5 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon. Me and Brittany had had a couple of drinks, and we're playing video games and watching, sitting on the couch. And I looked out the window, and I noticed that I could not see the road from my window, which I can usually see the people that live across the street from me, but I couldn't see the road because there's a wall of smoke. And I thought to myself, well, that's odd. So I stepped onto the front porch, and sure enough, it smells like smoke, and there is smoke creeping into my yard. And I can't see the house that's producing the smoke. And I thought to myself, well, that's a problem. Let's go make sure everyone's okay. So at the time, I was only wearing a pair of gym shorts.
Like
That's
it.
Yeah. Yeah, it was still bright and sunny out and still warm, but I'm just wearing a pair of shorts. And so I go walking over to see what's what. Just trying to clean up those edges a little bit before I start tapering. So I walk out to the street and I look over and I can't see the house where I believe the smoke is coming from. There's just one big smoke screen. So I went walking over to the house. It's catty corner from mine. And when I get to the front yard of that house, I had passed the smoke screen and I could see the house was perfectly fine, but there's smoke coming from the backyard. So I walked around to the backyard and there was my neighbor burning leaves. From his perspective, his yard looked perfectly fine. He didn't realize that he had covered the entire neighborhood in a thick smog of smoke. So yeah, that's how I met his lovely wife, standing in their backyard barefoot and topless and half popped from having a few bourbons earlier in the evening. So now what we're doing is we're getting those ends hot, drawing them down to a taper, and I'll draw that out to about 13 and a half inches. So I should probably mark off my 13 and a half inches.
Rob asked if you've ever made a sword.
There's a guy I work with that has asked me at least 3 times if I, and it's funny the way he puts it. He's like, so Jesse, when you're out working in your shop, do you mostly just make swords? Or hey Jesse, have you made any swords lately? Like, no.
Question.
I have never made a sword.
Before you mark.
Yeah.
So would you wanna mark the other side of the anvil since, like, space-wise, you didn't have enough room to do that?
I suppose it's mostly just about making sure I get to the right measurement. It's not about trying to do work at this point at that level, but we can.
No, it's just an idea.
Yeah, so we'll start it right here. 13 and a half. I was saying something else before. Oh, the neighbor thing. I had this neighbor when I lived in my last apartment. Holy heck, like I said, if I got a chance to see him, I'd probably spit in his eye, thank him, and then spit in his eye again. But we had these neighbors upstairs that, I kid you not, every Friday and Saturday night the police would show up and bust up their fight because the man and woman were fighting all the time. And then also every Sunday morning I was woken up by their kids running back and forth down the hallway and jumping on the beds and stuff. And my philosophy is, if it's happy noises, I don't care, because I'm loud, you're loud, we're all loud. We just have to learn to live with each other. So if it's happy noises, the kids can giggle and run up and down the hallways and jump on the bed all they want. I don't care. But if you're yelling and screaming at your wife all the time, I don't want to hear that. So anyways, the people that got the cops called on them all the time finally moved out. And it's like, thank God. Now I don't have to listen to them yelling and screaming at each other all the time about who's cheating on who. Spoiler alert, they were both cheating on each other all the time. So anyways, these new people move in. And it's like, well, great. Well, there is a rule that you weren't allowed to move into, like, do any moving after 8 p.m. It's like 11:30 at night, and they're slamming appliances up the stairs and making all this noise. Like, come on, guys. So anyways, a few weeks go by of him yelling and screaming at his wife. I was like, awesome. We traded one couple yelling and screaming at each other, and now we got a new couple yelling and screaming at each other in Spanish. So now we're having a bilingual bloodbath upstairs. Speaking of loud neighbors, I'm sure the neighbors love hearing this on a Monday night. So anyways, we were playing video games. We were playing like Underground, Need for Speed. And we had 5.1 surround sound hooked up, so we vibrated the floor a couple of times with the loud noises. Then this guy comes, we heard him slam his door and stomp down the stairs, and then bang on our door. Not knock, bang. And it was like a dad is pissed kind of knock, like when you're a kid and your dad's like, go to bed, you little shit. You know, it was that kind of bang. So I opened the door, I'm like, good evening. And he's like, you guys are too damn loud, you need to calm it down. I said, hey, look, dude, we're just playing some video games. We did turn it down a little bit, but it's the weekend. I'm loud, you're loud. We just have to learn to live with each other. He's like, we're not loud. I said, bro, I hear you fighting with your wife all the time. You guys are loud. He goes, I never fight with my wife. And I said, well, I speak Spanish. Sounds like you're fighting to me. And he's like, well, your guys are too loud. Rah, rah, rah. And I'm like, no, we're not going to calm it down. You be quiet for a while. Maybe we'll be quiet for a while. Like, leave me alone. Like, you're not the boss of me. And so we went back and forth for a minute. And I'd say it was a good time had by none in this conversation. And then he's like, oh, and by the way, do you know who owns the Wi-Fi network of, name of network? And I said, I do. He goes, who is it? I said, it's me. He goes, oh, for like the last 3 weeks I've been using it, but now I'm locked out of it and I can't use it. Can you add me back to it? And I said, absolutely not. He goes, well, why not, man? I'm like, you just came downstairs to bitch at me and you've been yelling at me for the last 10 minutes, so no, I'm not going to give you free access to my Wi-Fi. He goes, what if I pay you? Because Comcast can't get out to pay, set mine up for a couple weeks. No. Oh, come on, man. Let me give you a couple. No, like, don't come down here and yell at me like you're the boss of me and then ask me for a favor. Like, get out of here. I told him to get plucked, but I didn't censor myself, and then I closed the door. Like, I am done with this. Like, leave me alone. I can hear Rob screaming at his computer right now. Jesse, you're never going to stretch that out by banging flaps. So I'm going to pull out the cross beam here in a second and see if I can accelerate this a little bit.
So Rob, I remember some chucklehead yelling at his wife over at Kurt's once. Jack having the what for. I remember he yelling at me while we forged in Johnstown once. Peggy with a hammer, we're trying to sleep over here. And then I'm trying to forge over here.
Real hard to forge when you don't have a hammer. And it's real hard to forge without making a bunch of noise.
I mean, I feel like they're used to the hammer. It's the music you have blasting out of this place while you're trying to get set up. Is probably what people are like, okay, calm on.
Yeah, that speaker is very loud. And with the way this building is shaped and this door is open, it really blasts that sound out. Guess I should have squared that up before I did all that. Yeah, I like my music loud, but it's not like I'm blasting it like midnight on a Monday. You know?
Yeah, I think the only feedback that has ever come from the music playing is when James was outside once and told you to turn it up.
Mm. When my Wrangler was my daily driver, my Wrangler has a pair of 10-inch stubs in the back, and you can hear me a few blocks away. I was driving to work one morning with the top and the doors off, and I just hadn't turned on the radio yet. I had just gotten a Jeep, just backed out of the driveway, started to drive, and a bunch of parents were walking their kids to the bus stop, and one of the guys looked over at me and he goes, hey, Where's the music? It's too quiet out here. We want to hear it. I was like, all right, I just hadn't turned it on yet. And I cranked it up, and when it hit that first real loud thump, he's like, yeah. No. So yeah, I've never had anybody tell me to turn it down. I've heard people turn it up in this neighborhood. There is one new neighbor that I think it's just a matter of time before he walks over and very respectfully asks me to turn the F down.
I mean, nothing. I don't think anything will beat the one time that I took the girls outside and it was pretty late, and I walked out and one of your neighbors was having a party or something. You've always said that he has a lot of parties, and I recognized the music, and I was like, okay, like, and it was at that point it was just the music. There were no lyrics going along with it. But when the lyrics did start, uh, it was 100% part of your world from
Little
The
Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. And I, like, that just made me laugh so hard because I don't think I've seen this neighbor, but you told me about this neighbor.
Here's the guy with the big RV and the semi truck.
Yep.
Don. He's a good dude.
So,
Super
like,
nice.
That was the last thing I expected to be hearing coming from their house.
Yeah. He's a super nice guy. Super nice guy. So I have a problem with my Wrangler that the headlights will turn themselves on when the vehicle's off for some reason. What do you got?
Rob, WTF are you doing? Why would you switch to a crossbeam just to continue banging flats? Heathen.
Well, Rob, because I got to thinking, like, oh heck, I need to put the little divots in this so I could stretch it out. So I did a row of divots on each side. And when I started hammering them out, I thought, hey, dummy, you didn't make this square before you started doing this. So that's why I'm working on getting it square and knocking those divots out. And then I'll go back to adding the divots to then hammer back out again. So you're right, Key and I, it was because I wasn't paying attention to what I was doing. Which is par for the course. Par for the course for me. So anyways, my Jeep battery was dead and I had to get to work. And I didn't have a way to jump my Jeep. I even tried using my lawnmower and that didn't work. That made things worse. So anyways, I pushed my Jeep to the end of the driveway and started texting everybody I knew that would be in the city, but nobody was in the city. So I just figured I'd hang out on the bumper and wait for someone to drive by and flag him down. And the neighbor across the street fired up his semi truck because he was getting ready to go to work or whatever. And you're giving me a weird look.
Continue.
What's wrong?
Nothing.
You're looking at me all weird or something like my fly is down or something.
Tell your story.
So anyways, he fired up his semi truck and he looked over, he's like, hey! I was like, hey! Then he walked over, he's like, having a bit of a problem? I'm like, yeah, battery's dead, so I'm just waiting for someone to drive by to flag down. He's like, well, hold on a second. And he walked back home, jumped in his van, and drove over just to jump me while his semi truck was warming up. So he's a super nice guy. It's funny that he's really into The Little Mermaid, though. So, what were you staring at?
Your pants.
What's wrong with them?
Nothing.
Just trying to make me feel self-conscious while I'm standing in front of two cameras here. Rude.
Yeah. No, it's the loop for like where you would put a hammer.
Yeah.
I'd never noticed that before, which like fine, whatever. But I thought it was like another piece of your pants that you were gonna have to patch up.
Yeah, I will keep patching these pants up as long as they fit. So yeah, much prefer my neighbors here than I did when I lived in Carmel. That was dumb.
Yeah, well, Caramel's kind of the worst sometimes. Not always.
Yeah, I ended up moving out of Carmel because that just wasn't where I wanted to be. And apparently, if you live in Carmel, and at the time, if you drove like a big Hummer H2 or you drove a BMW or some other expensive vehicle, apparently red lights don't apply to you. And I can't tell you how many close calls I had with people where I had full on green light and had to dodge people running red lights in town. It's like I don't want my Jeep crushed by some rich jerk in a Beamer. I did have a rich jerk in a BMW rear end me at a red light. Like I was sitting there and then my Jeep bounced and I looked up behind me and he real sheepishly put his vehicle in reverse and backed away. So I got out and said, "Hey man, meet me in that parking lot." We meet in the parking lot and all he did was scuff my tire cover. And I looked at his car and it was full of rusted dings and that guy just runs into everything in front of him. I was like, "Have a good night, dude." See you later. Everything all right?
Yeah.
What time do you have over there?
7:30.
7:30. Yeah, we definitely are not getting this piece finished tonight. And, well, we'll get it most of the way there. So Thursday night when I'm back in class, I can get the rest of it knocked out. I'm ready for this project to be done. Ready to move on to the next thing.
I mean, based off of this girl that you have that's already, made and done, it's like a really pretty project.
Oh, the final project's going to be beautiful.
Tedious.
It's interesting to me that Rob was able to get way without having to be a big participant without getting browbeat too much about it. I don't know how he pulled that off. Rob, you need to teach me how to duck these bigger projects.
Rob has left the building.
Oh, Rob has left the building.
Yeah, he has to go play husband.
Say what?
He's got to go play husband.
Oh, how fun. But yeah, the final project will be beautiful and be very nice and very cool, very impressive. What's going on? There's a fire over there. I had a really good run there where I was getting lots of good heat, and now I'm not getting any.
It's getting a little chilly.
Is it getting chilly? I just must be running a little bit warm because that was actually kind of nice stepping out there. Maybe it's just really warm over here. Do you want to come stand over here for a little bit?
That's okay.
Do you want to bang on some metal for a little bit and I'll go sit and mind the laptop? You can run the show.
That's okay.
Is anybody watching right now?
We've got one right now.
Probably. That's a lot for our little tiny channel.
I'm sorry, yeah. So we have like 6 concurrent viewers.
That's nice. So yeah, I bounced the whole going to the ham benching thing to Ian.
Yeah.
My neighbor across the street is also a ham radio operator like me. To see if he wanted to go. And he said he might be down for a day. So I might go and take the gimbal and shoot some stuff there just for random fodder to throw on the channel.
Okay.
That just makes it hurt. And I knew that. I think I went too narrow. Might have to do a lot of cleanup work at the shop Thursday night. Yeah, right?
Yeah. You only had the one side lid.
Yeah, because I thought we were running low on gas, so I just put it on mid so you wouldn't burn through the gas so fast.
Oh.
But yeah, if you put it on high, you'll get both panels going.
Oh no, I know that.
Is the fan turned on? I can't remember if I turned it on or not. Red rocker switch underneath the handle.
Yep.
Making a high pitched noise. getting anywhere close. Yeah, we're about an inch off. I can take a little bit more off the top and push it down. Yeah, I'll try to get that a little bit more even and call that good for the night and finish it up at the shop. Should be fine. Heater die on you?
Yeah.
Is it turned off?
Yeah.
Is the fan turned off? I brought extra cans of gas out, but I don't think it's worth
No, not
moving over. We're going to be done here in about 10 minutes or so. I'm tired of banging on this. So I think we're going to cut it short tonight because this is just getting to the realm of like tedium of just stretch out this metal for 3 or 4 inches and then do the other side. So I'll do those at the shop Thursday night. I think we'll bring this stream to an end. Do you have any final thoughts?
Nope.
Any final comments from anybody that might be watching?
Nope.
All right. Well, as usual, guys, check out DV_Forge on the old Instagram, Coyote Metal Company, From the Mold, Sean Daniels Real Estate. If you want to get rid of real estate or get real estate, whatever, hit them up. Custom blacksmithing in Atlanta, Indiana. Find me there on Thursday night. I'll show you how to make some stuff. It'll be fun. That's everybody. And of course, check out brimstoneforge.us. That'll get you to all the links, the YouTubes, the TikTokies, the Etsy, the Instagram, and one other thing I think is on there. Maybe Twitch is still there. This shirt, Forge Around and Find Out, will be on the store next Monday. I'll mention a coupon code during the stream. The first 10 people to use the coupon code get 10% off. Hooray. So, I think that's it. We'll see you next week. Same Forge time, same Forge channel, and we will see you then.